Hello. Today we're going to talk about how the pyramids were built. I'm filming from my car today because when I feel like explaining something that I've done research on, I just do it. And here it is. I'm a research compiler. I do hours and hours of research and watch documentaries on things that are particularly interesting to me. And I come to a conclusion that is easy to describe to inspire future research. So today, the pyramids. And I want to ask you, how do you think they were built? What were you told? Because what has been taught is not exactly accurate. I know I was told of slaves and ropes and ramps and dragging the blocks miles and miles after being cut. But I want to give you a little information about the blocks. They weigh on average 2.5 tons, which is 5,000 pounds. At a pushing force of about 100 pounds per person, that's 50 men per block, times 2.3 million, lifted up and over each other to create the Great Pyramids. Now, they're perfectly square and perfectly aligned. There are blocks in the pyramid that weigh over 70 tons. These blocks are over the King's Chamber, which are over 150 feet off ground level. By my math, that is 1,500 men at 100 pounds to lift 70 tons or 140,000 pounds. 1,500 men per stone. Now, archaeologists have claimed they've moved these from hundreds of miles away and lifted them into place. But these archaeologists went to school in the 50s and their information is wrong. And frankly, it makes no sense. No one would ever do that. And I have a few pieces of evidence I'd like to share with you to prove that, and a conclusion of exactly how they were built. And I tell my friends, me and 10 people could build the pyramids by ourselves if we had enough time. I can certainly build a few blocks in our time with 10 people. And I will share with you how to do that. So let's get to it. The Great Pyramids were built by being poured in place, one atop another, in molds. I want to get this right. So buckets of ground up elements that when mixed together create a chemical reaction that results in a composite primarily of lime, natron, and calcite that then hardens into a material indistinguishable from the local bedrock, also known as limestone. This information has been conveyed by multiple Geopolymer institutes, filling these simple molds in square shapes to create a monolithic block of any size or weight. Very easy, super simple. We have evidence of this in the chambers throughout the pyramids. People don't build tunnels in squares. They just don't. But square molds are actually easier to make and to fill than circular pipes. And that is what we find in the pyramids. And as they move up each level, they slide the molds up. It's very simple. We have evidence of mold making throughout Egypt. Everything is from a mold. The statues, we have granite baboons and lions. And guess what? We have gold statues of pharaohs. Now, I don't know about you, but I don't think they carved that gold statue. I don't think they carved that granite statue. And I have a simple solution for all of this. They did have glass. A convex magnifying glass harnesses the power of the sun and melts things into molten rock, which is then poured into a simple clay mold, creating any shape, any size, very easily. It's not a complex system, and our ancient civilizations certainly had this technology. Now, it just takes one person with a brilliant idea to change the entire earth, and that's what we see 4,000 years ago, just like Thomas Edison and Nikola Tesla with the bringing of electricity across the world with AC and DC power. Strokes of genius pop up, people evolve, and a couple of them just evolve a little quicker than others and come up with a brilliant idea. Again, we see this in Egypt when they came up with the exact formula to build these monoliths, and we have found that formula today. And I will share the exact formula with you here in my notes because these words are pretty hard to pronounce. The chemical reaction we have found today and duplicated are sodium carbonate plus calcium hydroxate and calcite mixed with sand and water to create a concrete-like material. And that is how the pyramids were built. 8-foot molds. The bigger the molds, the easier it is to build. However, you can only build a mold so big because the people have to move the molds. So we see evidence with the obelisk that was abandoned in front of the pyramids. We see a obelisk on its side that is incomplete or was never erected, and I have a perfectly good explanation for that. It was left there because you can see evidence of the mold going south, and you see scoop marks out of the side of this obelisk. They're known as anomalies because you can't carve scoop marks out of solid granite, which is what this is made of, or sandstone. They just didn't know what tools they used, and that's because they didn't use tools to carve those. The material was soft. The evidence is right there. The evidence is all around us through Egypt. They easily made these statues, giant obelisks, and carvings in the walls, which are not carvings. They're simply just negatives of molds. The Egyptians are perfectionists. They would never leave a obelisk or monument half finished on its side. It was a mistake by the builders, and I'm sure it bothered them, but they couldn't move it. That is why it stays where it lays. And I'm sure they buried it with sand so it wasn't an eyesore, but that's why it lays there on its side. It went south in the molds, and they could not move it. They didn't move it there. If they could move it there, wouldn't they move it away? It's cracked and broken. They didn't use it. Wouldn't they get rid of it if they could? So, through my research, this has always been an important thing in my life, and I have always thought to myself, I really hope I can discover the way these amazing buildings were made in my lifetime. As a builder, it's just always been a fascination of mine. And now it's kind of come full circle as I am creating my own building and construction company, building things in a new way of my own. And it just so happens that I am using a composite and molds to make this new building method as well. It's almost like it's fate to find this research now. And I can attest to its ease. It is easier. It is stronger. It is the best way of building things. And I'm not sure if the knowledge was hidden by a secret society of some sort to later claim as their own, or it was just completely lost and people haven't figured it out through common sense that that is the way these must have been built. There is no other explanation. It's just not possible. And sometimes the simplest answer is the right answer. So that concludes today's episode, and I hope it's inspired you to gain knowledge and spread light of information. I have more for you guys in the future of floods, ancient civilizations, and more. So until then, peace.